Title: The day honor spoke louder than prejudice. The day had started like any other for Staff Sergeant Darnell Hayes. The air was hot and heavy, thick with the Georgia sun, and his uniform clung to him after a full day of training drills at Camp Westbrook. His body ached from the long hours on his feet, guiding younger recruits through obstacle courses and equipment drills. But despite the exhaustion, he carried himself with the quiet pride that came from over a decade of service. 11 years in the Army Reserve, with deployments under his belt and commendations neatly folded into his record, had etched confidence into his bones that he pulled into the gas station on Pinecrest Avenue, a small corner store with flickering fluorescent lights and aging shelves packed with candy bars and snack chips. All he needed was a bottle of water to quench the dry burn in his throat. Still in his crisp uniform, with his name patch, Hayes, stitched proudly over his chest and medals glinting softly in the light, he stepped inside. The place was mostly empty. A teenage cashier was slumped behind the counter, half watching a game show on the store's old wall-mounted television. A middle-aged man near the back scanned the energy drinks. A woman in scrubs picked through the hot food section by the microwave. Darnell moved with purpose, grabbing a chilled bottle from the cooler and stepping into line. It was the kind of quiet moment after a long day that most people take for granted. Then came the sirens. The sudden screech of tires outside broke the stillness. Two patrol cars came barreling into the lot, lights flashing, engines growling with urgency. The doors swung open before they fully stopped. Two officers emerged, both white, both visibly agitated. The taller one, lean and angular, had a jaw that looked carved from stone. Officer Mitchell Crane. The other, shorter and stockier, bore a permanent scowl and a twitching upper lip. Officer Ryan Dorsey. Inside, time seemed to freeze. The cashier's eyes widened. The woman in scrubs put down her chicken sandwich. Even the guy with the energy drink took a step back. Out of the store. Hands where we can see them. Officer Crane shouted as they charged inside. Confused, Darnell instinctively raised his hands, still holding the water bottle. Officers, what's going on? Neither officer answered. Crane walked straight up to him, scanning the uniform with suspicion. You're under investigation for impersonating a military officer, he snapped. What? Darnell blinked, his brows pulling together. I'm Staff Sergeant Hayes. I just finished my shift, hands behind your back, Dorsey ordered, stepping in. Before Darnell could respond, his arms were wrenched behind him, and the cold bite of steel encircled his wrists. The bottle slipped from his grasp, rolling across the floor with a soft thunk. This is a mistake, Darnell said, trying to keep his voice calm. Yeah, they all say that, Crane sneered. The officers hauled him out of the store like a criminal, pushing him down to his knees on the concrete sidewalk. The sun baked the pavement, but Darnell didn't complain. He stared straight ahead, his face stoic, his eyes burning not with anger but resolve. Cars slowed to gawk. Passers-by took out their phones. A few voices murmured in concern, but no one intervened. The badge, it seemed, still spoke louder than the uniform on Darnell's chest. I'd like to make a phone call, Darnell said after a beat. Dorsey snorted. To who? Your cosplay group? No, my commanding officer. They exchanged glances, amused, then shrugged. Be our guest, Crane said mockingly. With his hands still cuffed behind him, Darnell managed to dig his phone from his pocket. He tapped a single contact. Colonel Terrence Whitaker. The line rang once. Twice. Then came the voice. Colonel Whitaker. Sir, Darnell said steadily. This is Staff Sergeant Hayes. I've been detained at the gas station on Pinecrest. They're accusing me of impersonating military personnel. There was a pause. Then, stay put, Sergeant. I'm on my way. Darnell ended the call and looked at the officers. Help is coming. They laughed again, but they wouldn't be laughing for long. Exactly 7 minutes later, 3 matte black SUVs rolled silently into the parking lot. There were no flashing lights, no blaring sirens, just an unmistakable presence. Doors opened in sync, and out stepped men and women in sharp military dress. Real authority, the kind that didn't need to yell to be heard. Then came Colonel Terrence Whitaker. He moved with the grace of experience, his salt and pepper hair clipped close, his chest a wall of ribbons and honor. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to quiet a room, that he walked up to the officers and fixed them with a hard stare. "Which one of you is Crane?" Crane hesitated, then lifted his hand. "I'm Colonel Terrence Whitaker," he said, calm but firm. "That man you have on the ground is Staff Sergeant Darnell Hayes. He has served this country for over a decade." Dorsey tried to interject. "Sir, we thought. Did you ask for identification?" Whitaker's voice sliced through the air. "No, sir." "Did you check his name badge, his military ID, anything?" "No, sir." Whitaker stepped closer. "Then what exactly gave you the authority to cuff him like a criminal?" Silence. "You racially profiled a decorated U.S. soldier," the colonel said. "And as of this moment, you're both under investigation by federal military oversight." A woman in uniform approached with a file of official documents. "You are hereby placed on administrative leave," she said to the officers. "Hand over your badges, weapons, and radios. Now." "But," Dorsey stammered. "There is no but," Whitaker said coldly. "The only mistake made today was yours. That man earned his right to wear that uniform. What gives you the right to strip that dignity away based on the color of his skin?" With trembling hands, the officers surrendered their gear. Whitaker turned to Darnell and knelt beside him. "Get up, Sergeant," he said, unlocking the cuffs himself. "This should never have happened, but it will not happen again." Applause erupted from the gathering crowd. Phones were still recording. One woman cried, "That's what justice looks like." As Darnell stood, brushing dust from his knees, his pride remained intact, even if the moment had shaken him. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just stood tall. By morning, the video was everywhere. News stations ran clips of Darnell's arrest, followed by Colonel Whitaker's arrival. Social media lit up with hashtags like #HonorNotHate and #SergeantHayes. Interviews poured in. Civil rights groups spoke out. The mayor of River Grove held a press conference. "I personally apologize to Staff Sergeant Hayes," she said. "This city owes him more than thanks. We owe him accountability." Officers Crane and Dorsey were fired, not suspended, not reassigned. Fired. Darnell sat on his porch the next day with a mug of black coffee, his mother by his side. She hadn't said much, just rested her hand on his knee the whole time. 2 weeks later, Darnell stood in front of a group of police recruits at the local academy. He didn't bring notes. He didn't need a speech. "Before you put on a badge," he told them, "remember that power without perspective is dangerous. Don't let fear or bias be louder than reason. That man in uniform you doubt might have bled for the ground you're standing on. Ask, listen, respect." No one spoke when he finished. But then came a slow clap, then another, until the room was filled with applause.